cursed lineage of the D, right? If Law throws this island, then, there and then, I will declare Law as the strongest One Piece character ever. Hey, Pharaoh, drop that, man.
Now, I was watching a stream on Brago's channel not long ago, and the topic of conversation being if Law is capable of cutting Onigashima. And I came up with a cool idea for an awakening or a possible technique Law could use in the future. Granted, I do not think that Law will be capable of cutting Onigashima as of right now, perhaps later in the story end game, but I could see Law doing something on a scale that we haven't seen before from him later in this arc, mainly because I think Luffy, Kid, and Law have all received buffs in some way, shape, or form, just because I feel like Oda has highlighted these three when it comes to portrayal. Granted, there is more portrayal on Kid and Luffy's side more so than Law. However, I do think that Law's role in all of this is going to be very essential given the ability that he has. If anything, I think Law is most likely going to have the clutch moment into defeating Kaido, as well as him being the driving force into making everyone's attack be in unison. And I usually think back to Stampede and how his ability helped everyone use their attacks in combination. I think that's the role Law is going to play moving forward during the Alliance's battle against Kaido. I feel like Luffy wasn't the only one who grew in this arc. I think Law and Kid will show new abilities that we've never seen before. Granted, with Kid, we've never seen any of his abilities other than Metal Claw, which is pretty much a meme at this point, but I do think that Kid will appear a lot stronger than we thought he would be. And I might make a video talking about each of them and how their abilities could be expanded upon even more in their battle against Kaido. Kid will most likely be the next video, and finally Luffy will be the last because there is a lot to be said for Luffy. And this is a video that I've been planning to do for the longest because we have more info on Luffy's ability more so than anyone else. But today we're here to talk about a potential awakening idea for Law's fruit, or just maybe an advanced technique. Now, I'm not sure what route Oda is going to go for Law next, whether he develops his abilities or he has better haki, but I think it makes more sense that Oda develops Law's abilities because there's some things that he's lacking when it comes to the Obi no Mi. Now, Law's ability is easily one of the most overpowered abilities in the series, the Ope no Mi, which pretty much stands for the Operation Devil Fruit, and it's a very fitting Devil Fruit for Law given that he's a doctor as well. So it's almost like it was a fruit made perfectly for Law. And this is a fruit that grants the user the ability to manipulate or control anything in the room that it creates, which comes with a variety of abilities such as the ability to swap objects, switch a person's mind into the body of another, the ability to cut anything on microscopic levels, the ability to move objects with a flick of your finger. Let's just say that Law has a lot of variety in terms of his Devil Fruit control, but like with many overpowered parameces in the show, there is always some sort of drawback or a condition for said ability, and Law's fruit is no exception. Granted, there are some Devil Fruits that have no limits, like the Logias, who seemingly have the ability to create an infinite amount of their elements, but again, Law's abilities have certain drawbacks that has been very detrimental to him in fights. And it's very interesting because Law's ability is pretty much awakening without being awakened, because it allows you to manipulate everything in the environment. Granted, this is only known for the parameces that we've seen in the story so far, and given that the paramesa class has the most variety in terms of different abilities, we can definitely say for sure that we're going to see a variety in awakening as well. And I think Law's fruit is going to be one of those abilities that would have a very overpowered awakening. So one can only imagine what Law's Devil Fruit will become once it is awakened. And awakening one's fruit is akin to that of being a master with that fruit, or reaching or attaining a perfection with your Devil Fruit control as stated by Crocodile. And while awakening is supposed to be the next level for your Devil Fruit, I also think that the way you use your awakening can also make it overpowered, meaning that creativity can make you stronger. For the most part, when it came to Katakuri's using awakening, it wasn't something that played that much of a role in this fight against Luffy, mainly because most of the attacks he has came from Katakuri's own body. And even when Luffy went into Snake Man, awakening was pretty much non-existent non-existent at that point, even though it's supposed to be the next level for your Devil Fruit. One would assume that Awakening should have played much more of a bigger role in Katakuri's arsenal of attack. So it's come to my understanding that some people use Awakening better than others. And I think of two individuals whose Awakening I think was truly overwhelming, and that was Crocodile and Doflamingo to a certain extent. And sometimes these abilities can be extremely overpowered to the point that the user doesn't need Haki to fight, just because your Devil Fruit produces enough firepower for them not to need it. People like Eno would fall into this category as well, and I think Law with Awakening would also fall into this category, because I do not think that Law needs Future Sight or a level 4 ornaments to compete with Luffy later on in the story. I feel like all Law needs to do is master the Ope Ope no Mi to its maximum potential, and I kind of agree with Brago here, where Law's ability could potentially make him the strongest in the series if these limiters weren't placed on him. But I think with Awakening, some of these limiters may go away. And so going back to Law here, one of the main reasons that Law falls short a lot of the times is because of the main drawback of the Ope Ope no Mi. And so basically when Law uses his room, it drains some of his stamina, which makes it an ability that cannot be used for long periods of time. And we've seen this with Law time and time again, whereas he's able to do crazy things on crazy scales, but once those things happen, every so often his stamina declines, which leaves him unable to make more rooms, and even when he does make rooms, they become smaller, limiting his range of control. So as the battle progresses, the weaker Law becomes. So with Law, the easiest way to get rid of him would be to overwhelm him with attacks for long periods of time. Eventually his stamina is going to give out, which is why he had a very bad time against Doflamingo during Dressrosa. Granted, he was dealing with both Fujitora and Doflamingo at the same time, but the point still stands that him losing his stamina due to his ability is a very huge detriment for him as a fighter. And usually the size of his room dictates how much stamina has been taken away from him. So the bigger the room, the more stamina has been used. Now one way you can think of his Awakening is that maybe once awakened, he loses the stamina drawback. Now as cool as that would be, it wouldn't make any sense. I think that drawback is going to be there regardless of Awakening. However, I do think that when it comes to abilities that takes a huge toll on the user's body, there's really only one way to counteract that, and this is something that we've seen with Luffy time and time again, and that thing is efficiency. By finding loopholes within your ability via creativity or even having more control over your Devil Fruit, you can lessen the effects that a Devil Fruit has on one's body. And I usually think back to Luffy's Gear 2nd, where he's only activating it when he's in combat, and I believe I heard somewhere that he's possibly also activating it on specific parts of his body. Not sure if that's true, but it could be possible. And so when it comes to Law's Devil Fruit, what he has to focus on is the room. But you might ask the question, how is Law going to make his ability more efficient, because there doesn't seem to be that many options you can go around with Law's Devil Fruit. And so the method that I'm proposing is for Law to have the ability to change the shape of his room. So instead of circles, he can create it in specific shapes that allows him to use less room, but also achieving the results that he wants. So for example, let's say that he wants to move Luffy from point A to point B. Normally Law would use room in a sphere shape, swap Luffy from point A to point B. Now the reason why this isn't efficient is because of wasted space, because he's creating a room to do something that doesn't require the amount of space used. But if Law was capable of changing the shape of his room into any shape that he wants, this would make him extremely more efficient. And so let's go back to the example from earlier on. So instead of Law creating a room in a sphere shape, he could create a room that only covers the area that Luffy's in and the area that he's trying to get Luffy to, which in return would allow him to use at least 70% less space, but achieving the same result, which ultimately takes less of a toll on his body. So basically, if Law can change the shape of his room, he can get rid of a lot of the drawbacks that he has as a fighter. And again, as Law becomes more proficient in using his abilities, the stronger he will be. Things like manipulating the temperature or even oxygen levels in his room might be possible with Awakening. The Ope Ope no Mi was once stated to be the ultimate Devil Fruit, and it was an ability that the Marines were looking into getting. So it's safe to say that this Devil Fruit probably played a role in past storylines for it to be called the ultimate Devil Fruit, and it most likely has a ceiling that other Devil Fruits don't have. So when it comes to Law growing as a fighter, Oda can easily make this happen without him having things like Future Sight or advanced ornaments, because Law doesn't need these things to become a capable fighter. But anyways, what do you guys think about this discussion slash theory? Do you guys think Law having the ability to change the shape of his room is possible? If so, comment down below what you guys think. And again, give me your ideas on what you think Law is going to be capable of moving forward, especially given that we're getting very, very close to this Kaido single battle, right? But again, like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more One Piece content. You can follow me on Twitter at Ferrospace. But it is fair, guys, and I will see you folks later. Peace.